Got a question from Justin in Conway, 46 years old. Right now I have just under $500,000 in retirement accounts. Would I be okay in retirement if the only thing I do is max out my Roth IRA every year moving forward? Job offers a very crappy 401k, not mincing words there. No match, index, or target date funds. A lot to unwrap there from Justin, and it's so interesting to me. We have our second question with, will I be okay in retirement? Justin, we want you not to just be okay in retirement. We don't want you to cut corners now or even recognize that you're cutting corners to be okay in retirement. So again, to our point from the first question in the show today, nobody's ever told us they've saved too much for retirement. So be very cautious about pulling back the reins on what you are doing for retirement. But given that 401k description, I think the first thing we can safely say, John, here is that, yes, keep maxing out that Roth IRA for a lot of reasons. We love the Roth IRA. For people listening who are not totally familiar with how it works, you're putting in after-tax contributions. They grow tax-deferred and are withdrawn tax-free. You will not pay a dime of tax when you pull the money out of the Roth IRA, and it's also not counted as earned income in retirement, so it can help you on the tax side with your other income as well. So it's a great flexible tool to use in retirement. I believe dumping as much into Roth IRAs is always a good idea, and especially at Justin's age, 46 years old. We don't know when. You're not telling us when you're going to retire, but if it's 15 or 20 years from now, you have a lot of time to really get those Roth IRA balances up. And also, if you have a spouse, he doesn't tell us if he's married, but if you have a spouse and you file a joint tax return, you can open a Roth IRA and contribute to the spouses as well. The contribution limits is kind of where we ought to hang out just a bit, John, because if you are 46 years old like Justin, you're limited a little bit on how much you can get in there. Yeah,
it's $7,000 each person in the household. There is a catch-up contribution, as we were talking about catch-ups earlier in the show on 401ks. On a Roth IRA, the catch-up contribution is $1,000 at age 50 or above. So you've got the opportunity to get somewhere between $7,000 and $8,000 into your Roth IRA, and I think that makes a lot of sense. Scott, I want to go back to the whole thing of, am I going to be okay? Mm-hmm. This whole conversation reminds me of one time a pastor was asked, well, Pastor, do I tithe off of my gross income or my net income? And the pastor replied, well, do you want a gross blessing or a net blessing? I think it's the same thing. You can contribute to your Roth IRA and be okay. And okay is very subjective. But I think that again, you want to try to do as much as you possibly can toward retirement, because there is no life preserver as far as retirement is concerned. Social Security is the only program out there that is some sort of social program that's going to help you out if you haven't saved enough for retirement. There is no student loan for Social Security. That's what I tell clients when they're going, well, do I save for retirement or do I save for my kids' college? And I go, look, there's student loans for college if that's what you have to do, but there is no student loan for retirement. So you've got to save as much money as you possibly can. Now, let's talk a little bit about these target date funds and the question about index funds and all of that. We're not big fans of target date funds because as you get older, they get more conservative, and that may or may not be the right thing for you, but you're totally out of control of those asset allocation percentages when you do a target date fund. Index funds are really popular, but that doesn't mean an actively managed fund is a bad choice. There's a lot of froth out there in the media about, index funds, they're cheap and they perform well and all that type of thing. That doesn't necessarily mean anything. Here is the most important thing. Justin, you need to be doing it. You don't need to be worried about where it's going. Yes, that's important, but the most important thing is that you are engaged in the contributions. I think Dave Ramsey talks about that, like there's some study that's been done that's like 85 or 90% of your ability to be successful in retirement is just pulling the trigger and making the contributions.
Right. Yep. That's a huge part of it. And even with no match, I think, Justin, it's important to remember the 401k still has benefits The contributions, assuming they are pre-tax, will certainly lower your taxable income. So it's always good, especially for maxing out the Roth. There's a little balance, right? You're getting tax-free withdrawals in retirement by funding the Roth, but you're also getting tax benefits now by contributing to the Roth, the 401k. You also have the tax-deferred growth, which can keep taxes off of it when you compare it to, say, a non-retirement account where you'd have to pay capital gains for any sales, any trades you make and gains you have in those type of accounts. So there's still some advantages, even if you don't have investments that you're truly in love with, although, as we've talked about, you might want to consider not being in love with it. You know, I think the one thing about the 401k we talk about all the time is they are great accumulation vehicles. They are not great distribution vehicles. As you get into retirement and you think about the limitations on those funds, but even the target date fund, John, when I hear you talk about how it is on that glide path to be more conservative as you get closer to the date on that target date fund, I think the thing about the 401k is there's so many assumptions that 401k has every dollar you have, right?
Yeah.
They don't recognize any outside accounts you may have, and you may not have any, Justin. It may be all in your well, you tell us you have a Roth, so you don't, right? So your complete financial picture should not be determined by what is inside of your 401k. So that's one reason to not get in love with target date funds for sure. And then we asked Justin if he was married, because there's that option too, right? Rather than totally walk away from your 401k and only contribute to your Roth IRA, what about your spouse? Do they have options? Is their 401k a place that you could get a larger match? You have no match, any match, right? You can certainly look to that and see the benefits there and consider that holistically when it comes to your overall plan.
Scott, let me put a cap on this whole discussion, and I'm talking to Justin, and I'm talking to really everybody else out there that has these specific questions about this part or that part. Stop doing things in a vacuum. You've got to stop doing things in a vacuum, because your financial plan is a intricately woven creation, and it is something that everything depends on everything else in the plan. So you have to stop doing these one-off isolated things and go, well, what if I do this? Will this take me to where I want to go? That's not how this works. Everything has to kind of work together for you to reach financial independence.